Welcome back, guys, to northern Wisconsin. Another video. What I'm doing here is a little different. The last time I was down in the cedar swamps, and I spoke at the point that I'm usually hunting those areas or along the scrapes above the swamps itself. It was time to come out to this area that I noticed last January. This is actually going to be a feeding area. And I only do about 10% of the feeding areas when it comes to hunting because they're hard to find up here in the big woods. You don't have agricultural crops, so the only thing that we really have to rely on is if you find a cutover like this, lush with raspberries, whatever, coppice method coming off the stumps with the browse. And then adjacent to that, I noticed in January when I was scouting this area, there was a healthy oak stand behind us here. And it produced a ton of acorns last fall. And these deer, due to the fact we had no snow last winter, they were feeding on them big time all the way through January, February. So what I did, I came back in March here to really take a better look at this if I want to pursue this as an area to hunt as far as a feeding area. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back here in a little ways and we're going to dissect this a little bit, maybe help you out in certain ways of bringing these deer together, congregate them into one area, because you have such vastness here. A deer can come from any direction and then disperse just as fast. So we have to try to work it together and get them as close as you can. Let's see what we can do back here. So let's go back here and take a walk, okay? Okay, we're back here a little closer to the transition. As you can see, there's your oaks back there, mixed in with some maples. You got your cut over here. And the first common mistake that I've made and others have made through our lives is that when you get in an area like this, say your deer feeding in here, they're going back and forth into the oaks, back and forth. A lot of people will just hit a certain particular oak tree that's dropping acorns at that time. And I'll tell you the truth, what can happen, you're going to end up sometimes playing cat and mouse with that deer. He may be on a trail over there. He may be, when you go over there, he may be over here hitting this oak over here. You get into that trap, you know, to where you're just going to spend your whole season just chasing that one deer from tree to tree. I know it sounds funny, but it happens. I can tell you a true story. Opening morning a while back, I was hitting the acorns, and there was an active tree dropping acorns really good. Opening morning, daybreak came, and about 20 yards away was an oak tree with a squirrel way up on top working the acorns over. And he was dropping them left and right, about 20 yards over. Wouldn't you know, about 20 minutes, half an hour later, here comes a buck. He didn't come to the tree I was at. He came to that tree where he was hearing that falling. 20 yards? Okay, over. The game was done. Fortunately, he was in range. But the point, what I'm getting at is sometimes early season, you'll hit these areas like this. And what if that tree that squirrel was working was 70 yards over? That buck was going to go over there. So a lot of times you get into that trap, like I say, of just hitting each trail as it belongs. And we're going to try this, and then we're going to try this over here. You have to use some common sense. Try to attract these deer to where you're at. You know, I know it sounds funny, but it does work for me a lot of times. Sometimes don't. But the point is, I try to congregate these deer over to where I want to be, not where they are at, because I know they're going to hit the acorns. But do I want to sit in the middle of it? No. No, I want to catch them as they're going there, but I got to get them closer together as we speak. So if you notice through here, on the right side, if you're looking at this, is the westerly winds. There's your west coming across. And there's trails going into it. But on the far east end, it drops off a little bit, where it'd be the lowest point. Thermals hit that lower area. And on back of that is a hillside. So I got somewhat of a pinch point. I guess that's all I'm looking for, is something like that, where I can get them together. Now, there is the very back trail there, the last trail, okay? And what I'm thinking of doing at that point, when I came in here in March, I looked at these trails, and they're designated trails going into these oaks. So chances are there may be some more oaks producing acorns this coming fall. So what I want to do, I want to be on the farthest east end, so the westerly winds are pushing it right against that hillside right by me. Now, to get those deer there, that's another subject. But what we're going to do, I'm going to tell you exactly what takes place at that point, what I did in March. See this? That's all it takes, guys. A stick. That's all it takes. I hung up a stick over there, a licking branch. That's all. You don't go nuts. They don't make them scrape. They make their own scrapes. You don't get too scientific about it. Just hang up a stick, a licking branch off of a trail, and see what happens. In March, I did that. I always dump my little juice in there. I have, doe scent, and I add that to a little of ammonia and some water, mix it up, and I pour that down a stick, sort of like a jump start, just some doe urine mixed in. See what happens. And what happens at that point, if they grab onto that, I'm trying to condition these deer and actually pattern them to come through that area first on the east end and work their way back up into the oaks. And naturally, down in that lower section like that, yourself, the bucks are going to lay low. They're going to be down in those areas naturally before they come up. They're going to watch what's going on up here to see how the does are doing feeding out in the cutover and how they're doing in the oaks itself before they hit their acorns. So that's what I did in March. Now I came back here just recently now, and the response was, you'll see right here. The proof is in the pudding. They just started in March. A couple deer would go there and they'd catch a scent. They'd go over there. They'd check it out on their way through. As the month of March progressed, a couple more deer got curious. They're so curious to this because they don't see that up here. There's no any type of a situation where they're pressurized by humans. So when they see something like this going on, they're going to go see what it is. They're animals. They're curious. My gosh, that's all you're doing. You're getting into their heads. It's fun. That's all you're doing. You're playing games with these deer and see if it works. So the point is, once March came along, they were getting more and more there. And in April, you saw it too, as they were progressing. And now it starts showing, as you can see, the antlers are starting to develop, so you can somewhat see what kind of bucks you have in the area. Now, as April came along, you see the bucks coming in, nosing around, and May comes. You got a few more coming in like this. And as you can see, June, I'm getting some nice bucks coming through that area itself. Naturally, yourself, guys, that at this point they become, they actually establish their little bachelor groups. Some of them do. So you can see that's what's happening there. But common sense, again, will tell you by fall what happens. They shed their antlers. They shed their velvet. And what happens? They hate each other. So they're going to disperse one at a time. But somebody's going to dominate that area. He wants those acorns. And he wants these does. So other than him, but it's large enough area to where there may be other bucks also coming in to feed on these acorns. The point is, I keep pronouncing here, is the fact that I have a healthy crop of oaks back here. Healthy oak stand. So fortunately, every year, maybe one or two of them or three of them may distribute some acorns for these deer. And they're going to come from all over for this because they don't have many of them. Many areas up north here don't have any oaks. And a lot of them don't even have these cutovers. So this is a prime place that I decide that I want to hunt this for a feeding area. Other than the other ones lined up, this one I'm going to pursue. Now, I probably won't come back here for quite a while now. Just leave it alone. I know what's going on. Usually by Labor Day, beginning of September, I know the game plan. And we'll see what happens. But my point is, look how simple it is to just try something like, what do you got to lose? Just go out there right now and just put out one in your area that you think you have. Because this can get confusing when you get into all these different trails. And I see it. I talk to guys that are doing this. Well, geez, I had him last night, but he was over on that trail over there. Just try something different. It's like fishing. What do? You tweak your bait a little bit until you got them coming. It's the same principle. Play with these deer and see what you can come up with. There's all kinds of tricks and gimmicks out there, but this is about the simplest I ever came up with. I hang up a stick. And if you'll notice in those pictures, there's one I thought he was going to poke his eyeball out, trying to put his preorbital scent up on that branch. once they do that, those deer are always going to keep checking in. So as you notice there again, I'm conditioning them to try to get to that area down there first. As they come through, they're going to check that, and then they're going to go up in oaks. Maybe I have a chance at one then, because I'll be buried on the ground down below there somewhere. But we'll take a look at that point. So I guess after this, I can't really tell you much more to do about it, but I'm sure you people, even in agricultural areas, have the same type of scenario that you may run into. So why not try it there too? You know, so this is one of the few spots that I can find as a maybe a successful feeding area versus hunting my scrapes close to the swamps, bedding areas, etc., etc. But this one may pan out. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to follow this up and let's see what happens by September, okay? And if they're still coming through here, which I bet they will be, you bet your bottom dollar I'll be hiding down in that area. So at this point, guys, hey, take care. I'll see you on the flip side.